It came down to the last day, but we officially know the seedings of every single team for the postseason. And what I want to do today is give my first initial reaction to some of these matchups. We got until April 19th until each series officially began, so I got some time to watch some film of these teams playing against each other, but I just want to give my first initial reaction to pretty much every single series. This year was an absolute blast, but nothing beats playoff basketball, y'all. So here we are. After the Clippers beat the Golden State Warriors a few hours ago, they are here at the 5 seed, and they bumped the Warriors all the way down to 9. I do want to say this is the second year in a row somebody on the Spurs ruined a season. You remember when Devontae Graham hit his shot to prevent the Denver Nuggets from winning the 1 seed last year? And I truly do believe, specifically in the Western Conference, it's so much matchup based. It's so much of who you are and who you're going against, opposed to the Eastern Conference. In a lot of the cases, it will be like, the Cavs are going to win their first round series, spoiler alert. The Celtics are going to win their first round series, spoiler alert. It's not really matchup based for those teams, but I truly do believe in the West is so matchup based. So, Devontae Graham hitting that shot for the Nuggets could have been one of the reasons why they didn't go on as deep of a run as they really anticipated. And then we had Harrison Barnes getting his revenge 10 years later against the Golden State Warriors. And then since they won that game, the Spurs won that game, and then the Warriors lost to the Clippers today, they fall into the play-in. Cool. But I think the other game that really had stakes was the Nuggets versus Rockets, and the Nuggets took care of business to secure their 4 seed. And just like that, we got the whole bracket. And I'm gonna jump around quite a bit trying to get my initial reactions. I'm gonna start off with the series that I think is gonna be the most interesting of them all. Lakers versus Timberwolves. This one is about to be amazing. And if it doesn't live up to the hype, I'm gonna be so very disappointed. I made this tweet, but the first part of Rudy Gobert's career, he ran against James Harden in the playoffs like every single year. And we're talking about prime James Harden when nobody can really stay in front of him. And it made Rudy Gobert look real bad. And the second part of his career, now he can't get away from Luka Doncic. How does the first part of his career, he go against the best ISO player of all time every single year, and now he's going against Luka every single year. He can't catch a break. Now, this Lakers team is obviously a lot different than last year Dallas Mavericks team, the way they're orchestrated. I think that obviously when you talk about the Lakers versus that Dallas Mavericks team, the top end talent between Bron and LeBron and Luka Doncic is superior. But when you think about the pieces fitting around them, it might just be somewhat of a different story when you think about the way Luka Doncic kind of picked apart the Minnesota Timberwolves. That doesn't make me think that I'm taking the Wolves in this series, but they had so many dynamic rollers on the team. Like, we're talking about Derek Lively, we're talking about Daniel Gafford, and shout out to Jackson Hayes because he's been holding it down as their roller for Luka Doncic. It's just not the same. And I think that they have been getting progressively better in their 30 games they've played together so far this season, where you saw earlier in their connection, Luka Doncic was definitely telling him, like, bro, we need you to hit on the body on this screen a little bit harder because we're not getting the switch that we want, or they're not really looking at you as a reliable role man. And if you look at it now, 82 games in, 30 games together, they're definitely more of a threat. But it just felt like no matter what, when Luka was on the court last year in the Timberwolves versus Mavericks series, he always had somebody as a roller. And this is not going to be the case. It's really just Jackson Hayes, as a real lob threat. And Jackson Hayes, though he has been getting better at this throughout his career, he's not the short roll passer that Derek Lively was last year that opened up corner 3-point opportunities left and right. So I think a lot of people are just looking at the face value of Luka versus Rudy, and Rudy's going to be tortured, and he might still be tortured. Don't get me wrong, we're talking about goddamn Luka Doncic. But I think that because the pieces are different between these two teams, it might just work in the Wolves' favor just a little bit more than last year, where it just felt like the Dallas Mavericks dominated them. See, they got Bron. And then they got Luka. They got Bron and they got Luka. And recently they've been generating shots that are similar to that last year Dallas Mavericks team. It's just a matter of, if you are Chris Finch, do you trust it as much as you trust the Dallas Mavericks last year? Luka Doncic is one of the greatest of all time in generating these corner looks. And when he first got to the Lakers, they weren't really doing that. And that was really intriguing to me. They were doing a lot more structured offense. And it seems like as of recently, that structured offense has died down a little bit, and just letting them boys play because they have two super cute computers on the team like Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and letting the boys play can result in a lot of wins. But recently they've been generating a lot of corner 3-pointers, and it's like, do we trust Rui? Do we trust Doe? Do we trust this guy, that guy? I'm very curious to see what type of role Jared Vanderbilt can play in this series, because he's one of the few guys on his Laker roster that I trust guarding so many different positions. But the problem on the other side of that is that finding his exact role on the Lakers offensively has been a struggle, specifically when he's playing with certain combinations of players. So I'm curious to see how much burn he gets and how impactful he can be in this series. On the opposite side of things, I don't know if this is just a March thing or whatever. Rudy Gobert has been better offensively, which is saying something. Y'all know he's got some of the worst hands in all of basketball, but he just had his career night against the Brooklyn Nets. But just in general, it seems like his teammates are trusting him more with the ball. He's killing the glass like he was in his prime and stuff. And I think about the Lakers' lack of size outside of Jackson Hayes, and I wonder how much that will prevent them from being as successful as they want to be. Right? If you are going to go against, if you are this Lakers team and you think about the opponents that you could have matched up against, this is one of the teams that their lack of size may not matter that much because, again, we're talking about Rudy Gobert instead of talking about Zubac or talking about Nikola Jokic. You know what I'm saying? But I wonder, will just the pure size of Rudy offensively be overpowering for a team like that? Because we've seen it both ways, right? We've seen it when they played against, and we're talking about years ago at this point, when Rudy Gobert was with the Jazz and he played with the Clippers, and the Clippers went that small ball lineup and he couldn't make them pay. He's been guarded by Terrence Mann and they couldn't even give him the ball, or they didn't want to give him the ball. I do believe he's better offensively now than he was then, but I don't want to act like he's one of the GOATs offensively at the same time. So that should be interesting as well. The Julius Randle postseason thing is a lot of conversations over on Twitter. Obviously, you could look at the stats. You could have seen this previous series. He has not been a good postseason player. I do believe he's fit himself into his role with the Timberwolves a lot better as of recently. He had one of his most efficient 30-point games not too long ago. It's a tough player for me to trust just based on track record. So we got to wait and see. And I won't be giving official predictions now. Again, I want to go back through some tapes because I just looked at their schedule. These two teams haven't played against each other since early February. And Luka was on the team there, but it was no Rudy Gobert. It was no Julius Randle for the Wolves. So there's not a big, these teams recently played against each other, let's look at this film type of thing. We kind of just got to look at their tendencies across. And it's the first playoff series for JJ Redick. We're about to see what type of preparer he is and what type of adjustments he can make from a day-to-day, game-to-game basis. This is undoubtedly my favorite my favorite definite series of the playoffs. Just moving up to the 4-5 matchup, Nuggets versus Clippers is also going to be a banger. Oh, man, this is going to be really, really good. The Clippers made everybody, me included, look really, really bad this season. And I've tipped my cap to them because they've been incredible. Zubac took a huge jump where he may make an All-NBA appearance. James Harden may make it. One of those dudes probably is going to make All-NBA. I think they probably go Harden. Harden also got the All-Star nod. And then he just closed out the game with 30-something points when they needed him to step up the most. So he probably is going to make the All-NBA team. But everybody in the team has just been playing so well. In this game tonight, I think they said it on the broadcast that because James Harden was playing so well, you kind of forget that Kawhi Leonard was right there on the court as well, right? It's just like another option offensively. They've been working like a well-oiled machine on the defensive side of the ball. And I mentioned this on the podcast a couple months ago, that them defensively is one of the scariest teams in all of basketball, right? They have so many just large wings that you can throw at guys. And they're not going against a team with a ton of perimeter creation, right? We're going against Jamal Murray as a perimeter creator. It's not like they're going against like the Lakers with a Bron or a Luka and Austin Reeves, so on and so forth. So they have like guys like Kawhi Leonard, Ben Simmons, Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, even like James Harden is average to plus defender to given night. Like he has some of the greatest hands of a guy that's not considered a defender. So they just have so many big bodies, and not to mention again, Zubac versus Jokic should be a battle of just I don't even know what to call it. So this is obviously going to be a great series as well, at least on paper. The Nuggets also have the thing of going into a series with a first-time coach who's only coached 3 games as an NBA head coach. So we wonder how much that's going to play a factor, right? In that first game as a coach, he kind of set Russell Westbrook quite a bit so Pickett can get some burn. Pickett hit a bunch of shots, but since then Pickett was like 0 for something tonight. So he may not play as much as some people up top may want to see him play. I don't know. There's a lot of different storylines with the Nuggets, obviously, with them firing Calvin Booth and Mike Malone. But the Clippers coaching staff and the talent that's on the rosters, man, they're really like a dark horse. And I think that with them winning today and, of course, securing their 5 spot, they ended up on the side of the bracket that they probably feel the most comfortable with. I've talked to people in the league, and in fact, I'm not even going to say what I'm going to say. I don't want to. They ended up on the side of the bracket where they probably feel the most comfortable. You think about what the Nuggets have been this season, and obviously the Nuggets are going to have the best player on the court every single minute, right? So as long as Nikola Jokic is playing, they have a chance to not just win this series, but win almost every series. But you feel as though you take care of this and then you go against the potential young OKC Thunder. They probably feel really comfortable with being on this side of the bracket, whether they're right or wrong, you know? So this is going to be a great series. On the other side of things, going to the Eastern Conference, a 3-6 matchup. Knicks versus Pistons. You got the bad boy Pistons versus the Knicks, who just got Jalen Brunson back. So we'll see. He hasn't looked super amazing since coming back from his injury, but he has been a playoff riser as a star player over the last couple seasons. So I trust that he'll be fine. There's a lot of things to really think about in this one because Cade Cunningham, going against the Knicks, I think he's averaging like 35 points per game. He has been extremely efficient. He's hitting his three-point shot. He's getting to the basket. He's pretty much scoring on all three levels in those regular season matchups. Again, I want to go back and watch the film because I don't remember off the top of my mind what scheme defensively they did in the pick and roll versus him. And now we're really about to see with this Pistons team, right? It's been one of the most fun teams of basketball, one of the most amazing stories, but this postseason is just a little bit different. If I'm Coach Tom Thibodeau, I am throwing the kitchen sink at Cade Cunningham and saying, hey, somebody else has to beat us. And if Malik Beasley hits 8 threes and he's dancing, he can have that. If so-and-so is doing anybody but Cade, it's like my mindset going into the series if I'm the New York Knicks. If that means heavy ice, if that means blitzing, if that means just trying to pick him up as early as possible to get the ball out of his hands, I don't really know what the scheme should be, but I'm just trying to think to myself, anybody but Cade Cunningham. The Pistons do have a level of a roster to like anybody but Cade Cunningham doesn't necessarily mean that, it's anybody but Luka, that means it's Kyrie Irving, right? They don't have like that secondary star, but they have been so good at doing it by committing. The one thing about the Pistons that scares me is that they just have been like as any young team usually is, they just struggle against good to really good teams. And the Knicks kind of fit in that. I know they won 51 games, but they also don't beat nobody really good. But so it's one of those. It's going to be like a war of attrition, I think, because I think that these two teams are going to hit each other left and right. I'm excited to see what type of impact Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have in this series. So it should be a fun one. Like I truly do believe that every single one of these matchups is must-see TV. I do think that Knicks versus Pistons, because you always think about that first round matchup that ends up on NBA TV. I would say Knicks versus Pistons might be that, but it's the goddamn Knicks. They're one of the biggest markets in basketball. So maybe it is Bucks versus Pacers because we don't know what's going on with Damian Lillard. And that's why this makes it so tough, right? Giannis has been on an absolute tear since the Dame injury where he's basically playing point Giannis, and I just love it. I mean, I don't know what the upside is when he's by himself with no co-star, but damn, is it so fun to watch. And he's been so electric. I made that tweet about his stats, and everybody's like, man, we need a 2018 run from him. And it wouldn't be crazy. I would like it. But here's the thing for me. The Pacers have been one of the 4 best teams in basketball by net rating by record since January 1st. I know it's kind of going under the radar, right? But they have been so damn incredible. And, the last couple of years, like, this is a high-powered offensive juggernaut, but the defensive side of the ball is just like one of the worst towards the bottom third of the league. That's not the case anymore. They got guys like Nembhard, Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, who I hope that when Pascal Siakam's career is over, we remember him as like, what you need, I got you, but like at the highest degree as an all-star level player, because it's just on a night-to-night basis, you can ask Pascal to do almost anything, and he'll be able to put that jacket on and say, I got you. So it's a tough series to pick. I can't call it just yet because we don't know about Dame. I would say if Dame is not there, I'm probably leaning more Pacers than Bucks, but Giannis is going to be an absolute dominant beast. Let's talk about these playing games out east. Neither of these games are going to be too interesting. I mean, they might have interesting games, but they don't have really big storylines, mostly because whether it be the Bulls, the Heat, the Magic, or the Hawks that make it to the postseason, we can all agree that the Cavs and the Celtics are going to advance, right? One of these teams might take a game, at the most maybe 2, but this is the Cavs versus Celtics, so they got that. So it might be cool just because it's one game elimination. Kobe White versus Tyler Hero again, Paolo Banchero versus Trae Young. Like, we can do some fun stuff there. None of those 4 teams gonna make a run. While on the other side of the bracket, you could convince yourself of one of these 4 teams going to run. And the one that people are gonna feel the most comfortable with is the Warriors, right? The Warriors are in potential if they beat the Grizzlies, to go against the Rockets. And because the Rockets are this young team with not a lot of postseason experience, some of these veteran-led teams probably feel really good about potentially matching up against them. I even saw Warriors fans on my timeline. Of course, they would have rather not be in the play-in, but they saying it's not the worst-case scenario because they don't trust the Rockets in the postseason. I remade my Rockets video like a couple days ago, so if you want to go hear me talk about the Rockets, there's that. But you could convince yourself of one of these teams going on a run. I personally don't trust the Grizzlies as much as I did 2 months ago. Ja has been back to being fun and electric, but I just don't trust them as closers. So it really is like the Warriors, and like, do the Grizzlies beat this second team? Or I mean, the Grizzlies could win this game. I don't want to act like the Grizzlies are just this ass team, but I trust the Warriors just a little bit more in this spot. And then things get real interesting. I know the Thunder's not going to be afraid of anybody, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure they probably want to see the Warriors advance in this first game, and that they get the winner of Grizzlies versus whatever it is, because it's just going to be an easier series. Yeah, those are my initial reactions to every single potential thing. I do want to get into the lab and watch, like, Knicks versus Pistons. I gotta see what that last matchup looked like. And then Clippers versus Nuggets happened just a few days ago, didn't it? No, the last time played each other was January 8th. What am I thinking about? Either way, fire. Like, there are a couple combinations that might have been better, better potential first round series. But of the ones that are absolutely set, I can't call it yet. And that's what makes a good postseason.